Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Season Ticket Holders. I'm your host, Dane Lillingston, and we have another new guest for us today. He is a political reporter with Channel 7 in the Canberra Press Gallery, who's worked across Australia and interviewed some of the biggest names in the business. He is a co-host of political and global affairs podcast, The Issue. You can catch him on the Nightly News and on Sunrise. Sorry, mate, I wake up with today. A Clarion Award winner, a former Gympie Devil, but most importantly, a Collingwood and mad Brisbane Broncos fan. Josh Martin, welcome to the show, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good day. And yourself?
Very, very good, mate. Happy that you're here, mate. Happy that you're here. Obviously, we met each other up there in North Queensland, working together back in the day, a little bit in Sydney now. Of course, you're in Canberra. Awesome to see your journey and what you've been able to do, mate. But firstly, hit us with it. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and what got you into the great game of a rugby league.
Grew up in regional Queensland. I think the first thing I ever saved up and purchased when I was 5 or 6 years old, I was mowing the lawn and doing chores in the backyard and saved up enough money to buy a Broncos jersey, which was my pride and joy. Funny enough, my parents are school teachers. We lived beside the school, and they had a working bee going soon after I'd bought the jersey, and painting the school. And I came home from the working bee with white paint, which had destroyed my Broncos jersey. But luckily, my mum was a genius and managed to get all the paint out of the jersey and saved it. But for a moment there, I thought I'd wasted my $100 as a kid, which is a lot of money. I thought it was kind of like an early lesson on money and the value of listening to mum and dad.
What year was the jersey, remember?
I think it was one of the early Keno Ergon Energy ones. Ergon on the front, Keno on the sleeves.
Love it.
I think like 02, 03, so
Lockyer years, mate.
Yeah, Lockyer years, yeah.
The golden years, mate, for us growing up, mate. And let's just get straight into it because I wanted to get you on. Obviously, we did just watch a Queensland derby. Very exciting. But just before we even get into the footy, mate, I can't get this one out of my head. It's Gorden Tallis. Does he hate the Broncos? Because that's just the thing I keep on coming back to time and time again. Firstly, just quickly, do you think he hates the Brisbane Broncos, or is it just me?
It's hard to say, isn't it? Because like he's heavily invested in the Titans now. But even before that, he sort of always enjoyed sort of giving his commentary. I think he's made a business out of it. Out of being critic, 360 Triple M. I think I saw a clip of him on Triple M. Ripping in. I don't know. You've worked at the media a while as a media, and I think sometimes you realize, people making opinions and heavy comments is a business model for some people. So I think for Gordy, it's probably more than a hatred. I mean, you would think most of the playing group and even Madge, he probably has little to do with personally. I mean, I'm sure some of the old boys, but I don't know. It'd be tough to say. It's kind of sad for me because, like, I still remember him, he sort of came back to the Broncos when I first started watching from the Dragons, and he was that big rampaging player. And I think still my favourite state of origin moment would have to be him collaring Brett Hodgson off the field.
All time.
I think it's a bit sad, but honestly, it's kind of one of those situations, when you have a falling out with someone, or you kind of feel worse for them than, you feel sadder for them being in that predicament where they're sort of angry at their old friends or their old situation. You kind of I feel worse for Gordy than I feel sadder for him than the fact that he is antagonistic with the Broncos and the fact that he is antagonistic, if that makes sense.
Mate, it's like a messy breakup. And I asked you because the newest story is a Broncos staffer has come out, and a few people have witnessed this after the Broncos win over the Gold Coast the other week. Basically, Gorden Tallis confronted or was met with the Broncos head of football, crisis manager Grant Williams. He claims they directed abusive language towards him in the tunnels. This was witnessed. The ground manager lodged a complaint. So that's where this is all stemmed from. Obviously, we've seen the news time and time again over the last weeks of Gorden Tallis' criticism of sometimes Adam Reynolds, Michael Maguire of the club's mentality. He came out in Triple M and said he didn't want to make it an issue, shut it down. But he said, look, it was just a handshake. That was it. It was fine with all the other board members, but like you said, involved with the Titans, but I just can't shake it, man. On NRL 360, obviously one of the most coveted media roles there are in the game. And like you said, he's made a career out of it, done it very well on the field. Now he's doing just as well off the field to be in that chair. But geez, I just think he has a gripe with the Broncos time and time again, whether it's Wayne Bennett or Michael Maguire. I know they had it run in a year or two ago where they didn't shake hands as well. And Michael Maguire wanted to extend the olive branch to the old boys. just like you, I grew up watching Gorden Tallis. That was also an all-time Origin moment. I remember watching his last game. I think it was against the Cowboys in the final series. His farewell, the Raging Bull. Love him for what he's done on the field, but Jesus Christ, man, I just wish he would stop hating the club. It does hurt. It just hurts. I don't know what's going on, Josh, but I wish it would stop, and I wish all the stories would stop too. But it seems like every week, and just there's again been this story this week, it doesn't go away. So good luck to him and the Gold Coast Titans. And he does have a new
Maybe
room.
there needs to be a hug more than even a handshake. Give Gordy a big cuddle.
Jeez, would you like to hug Gordy? How do you reckon that'd go? He'd eat me up, man.
He'd probably tackle you.
Not hard, not hard. And obviously we did see too at Fox League Studios now, I believe at Artarmon, after Gordy did get his name removed, he has now been put on one of the studios over there. So congratulations out there to Gordy. Loses one door, but another door opens, I guess you would say. So very, very good news for him. And yeah, we'll just wait and see where it all goes. I'm sure next week there'll be another story. Maybe him and Madge can just have an MMA match, maybe some jiu-jitsu, a little bit of boxing. Who knows? They're not sending Christmas cards to each other, but I'd like to see them in the ring together. The other thing, Queensland news, because it's a lot of Queensland news at the moment. Does Brisbane really need another NRL team? This is another little gripe I have. Do we really want another NRL team in Brisbane? You're a Broncos guy. I grew up in Brisbane. We know the landscape. The Dolphins are still finding their feet. But this chat about the Ipswich corridor and that type of thing, do you buy into it? Do you really think we should have another team in Brisbane?
I think if I was advising Peter V'landys, I'd be telling him to go New Zealand's second team. I don't know if you've seen the footage of the new stadium in Christchurch, but it's pretty spectacular. It's 30,000 seats, covered roof, like really good ground, like weatherproof. I think league's in the high point. Like I don't think league's ever been this ascended in terms of fans watching at the ground, fans watching on TV. Like Union is no threat to it in Queensland or New South Wales. The AFL's copying all its ideas. We just saw the gather round copying the Magic Round again. I think V'landys should go for the kill on Union, put a second team in New Zealand, really start to suck the good Kiwi All Blacks players, try to get a cultural establishment in New Zealand where you can really start to take the funding, the players, the TV rights, really go for the kill. Because if you killed off the All Blacks, you'd essentially kill off Union in Australia forever. I think like that's what's keeping the game going here. Is like last year there was 80,000 people watched the Wallabies and the All Blacks. Probably more than half were All Blacks fans. And I don't hate Union. I've never played it. I played league growing up. I don't mind watching the Wallabies or any of the internationals, even the local stuff. But I just think V'landys is a shrewd business operator. I would think taking on that New Zealand market. We've seen the success of league in the Pacific with the international game, and I think if you could really win New Zealand over, I mean there's another team in Southeast Queensland I think would work. I think like an Ipswich team would definitely work, although I do remember I think a lot of the Broncos supporter base comes from that region.
I've read that as well.
Ipswich, so whether you would cannibalize the Broncos brand's strong enough that you're never going to cannibalize it, but whether Ipswich and the Broncos team could both thrive would be interesting. I think, like Adelaide's obviously not big enough, I don't think, to go for a team unlike Perth. Like Perth's growing market has a lot of miners over there, people that from South Africa that like a bit of footy. So I think, they're probably the two options, Queensland or New Zealand. But I would personally go like a Christchurch team in that new stadium. Or even like a Wellington team, but maybe, I reckon like Christchurch really take it on. They're taking Origin there, like take Magic around there. I don't know, really just go for it in New Zealand.
I agree, mate.
Advice.
No, I reckon like a rivalry match. Could you imagine like New Zealand South versus North Island, whoever they'd work it? I think that would just create the hype. And like you said, good point you make about we keep seeing these stories come out of New Zealand, the rugby union system, how it's all changing, how NRL teams are really starting to link up and get a lot of this talent pool that's coming through. Geez, that's quite the statement. Put the hammer down, take that in, twist the screws, put two New Zealand teams there, shut it down. Not that we have to take anything away from Union, but just you may as well strike while the iron's hot, right? And right now, like you said, the NRL is hot. I just always come to think back of the Dolphins when they talk about these things. I would just like to see the Dolphins get more time. Imagine a new franchise coming in and then you've got another Brisbane team by the end of the decade. They're talking about potentially maybe 2030 or by the 2032 Olympics. Obviously, Perth next year, PNG in 2028. I just think you've got to give the Brisbane teams room to breathe. And I've seen the Dolphins crowds. They're not as amazing as they have been in those early years, obviously still yet to have any real final success either. I just don't want to step on the toes and just let them breathe a little bit. Adelaide obviously would be a rough one because they haven't really been trying to do anything Adelaide other than maybe taking one game there a year. And obviously Perth, I always thought that was the next option. That's locked up. So watch this space. But yeah, I think New Zealand would be the clear choice for me over Brisbane as well, mate. I just think it would make way more sense, create a good rivalry. We've already got cool derbies too with the Broncos Cowboys, like we're about to talk about, or Dolphins, the Battle of Brisbane. It's become an awesome rivalry, man. That derby at the moment's great to watch. What do you call another one? What are we going to call it? We've run out of
Yeah,
names,
exactly.
mate. Queensland
Yeah.
derby, Battle of Brisbane. What's the next one, mate? You got any ideas?
Well, I mean, the weird thing in Queensland is, I don't know if you find it, like my brother's a Titans fan. My dad goes to the Storm. I worked in Townsville for 5 years, got a lot of Cowboys fans, but there's rivalry, but you still kind of like the other teams. Like this, it's not that kind of South Sydney versus Sydney Roosters where they like hate each other. I think in Queensland, Origin still supersedes the club rivalry. Like you kind of, the 2015 grand final hurt Broncos fans, and I was there in the stadium, but I don't hate the Cowboys as much as I think those Sydney clubs hate each other. But yeah, another rivalry, why not? I guess the interesting thing is, as you add more teams, that means more teams that aren't going to be in the top in the finals. Like you kind of get to the point where it's like, do you go to a top 10 final system or do you stick with the top 8? I know the AFL's gone to a wild card round where they can have 7, 8, 9, and 10 playoff to make the finals. Like, I think once you get to those 19, 20 teams, you'll have to start looking at that, which I guess could work, but I just think you then have that pool of 10 teams down the bottom, and sports like the English Premier League work all right because there's that promotion and relegation. But for the NRL, it's going to be interesting to see, how they handle that, whether they change the final system. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, mate, you are right, because as we go to 18 next year, that obviously looks like they're going to get to 20 one way or another. How do they mess with it? I mean, I know you've seen the play-in thing, with like the NBA, they've got it at the moment as well. You do have that 6th to 10th and that type of thing, and they do like a little playoff system. Something to think about for sure. Now, I don't know if you've seen too the Perth predicted team for next year at the moment. It's not going to strike fear into anyone's hearts. They're still struggling for a marquee player, and looking at it on paper, man, I think they don't even have a hooker signed yet. It's going to be very interesting to see if they can pull someone out. I mean, Nathan Cleary would still be a couple years away, but I do worry for Perth and just how it's going to get off the ground at the moment. They obviously just had a doubleheader in Perth, Josh, and I'm a little bit of a crowd nerd. I was going to bring this up later, but I just thought I'd bring it to you now. But I just had a look at the crowds. That's a doubleheader, Optus Stadium, Saturday afternoon into evening. We're talking about Rabbitohs, Raiders, Sharks, Roosters. And to me, they only got 33,000. I know that sounds okay, but you think a big blockbuster. I swear they've almost cracked 40 in past years. They've got a team coming in next year to only get 33,000. I'd be a little bit worried, but obviously it really is a sign of it's going to take time there, right? It's going to take a long time for that sport and that club to get off the ground in an AFL mad city. I was just looking at compared to what other things have been on at Optus Stadium in the last, this year. And it's beaten by just about everything except a BBL qualifier. Obviously, the BBL final got 55,000. AFL matches obviously regularly get 40 plus. 50,000 West Coast Eagles, Sydney Swans. But anyway, one to watch, mate. I didn't love the crowd. I was a bit disappointed in the Perth support. But again, watch this space. They really need a marquee. But I guess the Dolphins shown a few years ago, you can get it done without a big, big star player. They've had some success, but it is missing someone you can really put on the poster, I reckon. Anyway, mate, the Queensland Derby didn't disappoint. I was actually shocked to read it was the first time since 2022 the Cowboys beat the Broncos. I didn't realize it had been that long. Did it feel that long to you?
I think it did. Yeah, I guess Broncos just had that long period of success with, Mam, Walsh, Reynolds. I mean, the rivalry was so good, wasn't it? In the 2015, 16, 17, 18, every game was golden point, extra time. It was finals,
Must
3 or
see
4
footy.
games a year. On Friday night was probably the first return to that real close, hard fought. Some of those young Cowboys players and the outside backs, the speed and the skills was exciting to watch. Even I have to admit, as a Broncos fan, you were disappointed to see the Cowboys score on us, but you're like, man, that was a good try. I don't know what it was with the Broncos, because you wouldn't really argue that Walsh and Reynolds are our 2 best defensive players, but it seemed like our defense just went out the window. I don't know if it was like, I don't know, you'd probably know better than me whether Walsh is considered a good communicator as fullback, but it just seemed like there was the line was broken, players weren't shifting left or right. I don't know if that was a bit of a fall away in that, but it just seemed like the Cowboys were able to run through us and we weren't covering or chasing back. But I think Broncos will be a slow burn again this year. We'll have a few injuries. I think we'll still make finals and do pretty well, but If you're a Cowboys fan, you'd be pretty hopeful of making the 8 after what we've seen from the first few rounds.
Mate, I thought that Todd Payton was going to be the number one coach under pressure, and they started pretty rough, and now they've just bounced back. They've done really well. Where are they? They're now fourth on the ladder, tied with a bunch of teams on 8 points, but they're currently on points differential fourth. They've got Panthers and the West Tigers tied for first, Josh. Would you believe it? And Warriors, Cowboys, Rabbitohs, Knights, Bulldogs, Roosters, all on 8 points to round out the top 8 after 6 rounds. But like you said, mate, I was going to touch on that. I hate bringing up the 2015 grand final, but I guess it was a turning point for both these clubs. I still remember crying at the Melbourne Hotel in Brisbane as the kicks were being scored and people telling me to sit the fuck down. The way this game went, it did take me back to that period because after that 2015 grand final, the Broncos-Cowboys rivalry, those derbies, they were must-watch footy. Some of the highest quality games, like you said, Golden Point. I remember Anthony Milford one game really breaking it open. There were some real classic all-time moments for at least 5 years, I would say, almost 4 or 5 years after that grand final. And this was a throwback to that era where this was must-watch footy. Broncos obviously look like they're on top. Thomas Duffy, geez, man, comes out of nowhere in his club debut, kicks the field goal. Looks like we're going to win it 31-30. And then obviously Helam Lukey, firstly Scotty Drinkwater kicks the field goal, a player they've told who can leave, by the way. And then obviously Helam Lukey crosses with 3 minutes to go to win the game. An all-time classic. Friday night, I had to be up early to work on Saturday. That really ruined my mood. But a great derby, mate, and I think there's plenty there for the Broncos to work through. I don't think there's anything you can take away too much from the Cowboys' performance. You did mention Reece Walsh too. I think obviously Jesse Arthurs, we don't really have a clear backup fullback this year. I think in other years we had Tristan Saylor a few years ago. But right now, I mean, Jesse Arthurs is really an outside back. He's not really a fullback. He did a fine job, but nothing wrong with it. But I don't think we really have anyone. Probably lacking just a little bit of depth at fullback at the moment. And he's going to obviously be there for another month. We've seen Reece Walsh's hospital videos. I just watched his blog, actually, his vlog on YouTube. He let the nurse let him hold the phone before he got surgery as he got the gas. So he counted to 19 before he dropped the phone and passed out for his surgery. He filmed the whole
Everything
thing.
for the content.
He did everything for the content, mate. It's on his YouTube channel, and he just did an episode, and it was just his time in hospital. Nurses are really nice wherever he was. But yeah, he got to 19 seconds before he passed out for his cheek operation, which is funny. Most followed player in the game. But yeah, performances-wise, mate, geez, Tom Duffy, what an absolute start. I think he was credited with 2 try assists, kicks that field goal late. Broncos are going to have a real interesting battle on their hand. I've just read they want to extend his deal. I think he was really just seen as a 1-year sort of stopgap option. Obviously got Jonah Pezzett coming to the club to really, you'd think he would have been the one clearly in line to replace Adam Reynolds when he retires. But now they've got this young kid who I think should almost remain in the team after that performance, man. What did you make of him and the way he was able just to slot it there at halfback? I really was impressed by his kicking game. He seemed to have the right 4th and 5th tackle options, and his goal kicking was on point. Just then he slots the field goal, and you're like, this is an NRL player we've got in our hands. What do you think of him?
Yeah, he was great. He seemed really composed, didn't rush anything. I think that's the thing with some of the young halves is they can get out there and rush it or try to do too much, whereas, yeah, he didn't really seem to make many mistakes, so he was quite impressive. Yeah, because I guess you've still got Benny Hunt. I don't know where's his contract at? Is he beyond this year, or is this his?
He hasn't made up his mind as far as I'm aware. Don't believe he is contracted for next year. It's sort of up in the air right now where he's going to go. So it's going to be real interesting to see whether he joins Reynolds, because that's going to be a big leadership experience vacuum at the end of the year if he follows Reynolds out.
I mean, it's probably not bad for Madge in that if he is going to lose Hunt and Reynolds, then you've got Pezzett, Mam, and Duffy sitting there. So you've almost got like 2 guys on the field, 1 guy on the bench. Now with the 6-man bench and the way the game's being played, it seems like you almost need to have a half sitting on the bench. So if Madge had a problem, I guess it seems to be getting fixed before it's got too bad. I know what you were saying about Tristan Taylor as well. I think you and I and our mate Chris went and watched the Broncos play the Bulldogs at Belmore. Was that the 23 year? I think 2023. And Tristan Taylor carved up the Dogs that day. And yeah, we did miss having that fullback option. Like, I love Jesse Arthur's great players, played well over the years. But yeah, definitely not a fullback. So maybe that's where Madge needs to look in the offseason. If he's got 3 or 4 halves, like maybe look for a young fullback coming through. It's interesting though, isn't it? Because I remember, around that Greg Inglis period where everyone wanted to be a fullback, like all of a sudden it was like, you had all these great centers. Everyone was going fullback. But now it seems like in the game, like the center is back. I don't know if that's because of the rule changes and the game's quicker, but you've got like Latrell's back at center. A lot of your big key players are happy to play center again. So it seems like that whole push to being fullback has sort of died down a bit and the outside backs are happy playing centre. I guess the game's opened up a lot. We're seeing all the scores, 50, 60 points combined in a game, so it's really quick. So, yeah, maybe Broncos need to look for a couple of outside backs.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I think they've got a few wingers and a couple centers. Yeah, I just think it's really that fullback position. But yeah, you're right. Guys like Stephen Crichton, Tony Staggs killing it in the centers. But yeah, and we had Selwyn Cobbo, of course, last year, which was probably the difference. You'd think a guy like him right now would have been pretty handy. I mean, whether he was a fullback or not, it's a different question. But he always wanted to get to try his hand at fullback anyway. And I imagine he would have slotted in there if he still had remained with this team.
Yeah.
But the big problem at the moment, Josh, is the hooker crisis, and not the good kind. Mate, they are no number nines. It is getting very, very dark now for the Broncos. Just going to run you through it. We lost Billy Walters, obviously, last year to an ACL injury. Tyson Smoothie, they let go for the Super League. And this is when people sort of laughed at the Broncos a bit, saying they had too many hookers on the books. But they've
Mm.
obviously lost those two now. Ben Hunt, MCL, he's about another 6 weeks now after going injured in their last game before the weekend. And then in the game, Corey Pakes, down with concussion, who's obviously won that number 9 jersey, started there all this year. And then poor Blake Moser, the long-anointed future Broncos successor, comes on, breaks his jaw. He's out for 6 weeks too. So absolutely devastating for Blake, man. He's a lot of raps. People used to compare him to Cameron Smith. It hasn't really been able to crack into this team. Madge has been running with Pakes and Hunt as the utility hooker combination all year. And now Moser won't get his chance. There is talks, and we will know by Tuesday afternoon. So potentially while you're listening to it, it's Cameron Bukowski, the 20-year-old, thinking of handing him a debut. I'd be kept in mind to put Duffy in, and I don't know if he can play hooker, but just keep him at hooker after that position. Keep him in that team if he's going to play like that. Of course, no guarantee Adam Reynolds will be right with that groin injury either. But I would like to see him go in. Hooker crisis, Josh. What do we do? What do we do, mate?
I think, yeah, you're just going to have to go with the young guy. Like, Moser would have to be the unluckiest player. And these kind of guys come along, right? Like Jarrell Yao, I think if he had played a full career, would have been like one of the
All-time
best
great.
ever. And yeah, there's just these players with immense talent that just always seem to get injured or just have no luck. So yeah, you got to feel for Moser. But yeah, I think you've just got to go for the young fella and give him a crack, give him some minutes. And it's sort of not as key a position as it used to be in that now, it's like they don't have to be 80 minutes. I don't know. I feel like hooker, even, I don't know, like playing fantasy or super coach, like it doesn't seem to be as critical a position in terms of the numbers. I don't know with the game change. I mean, it still is obviously a critical position, defense and attack, but I just think you're just going to have to go with Bukowski and just get on with it. How far is Billy still late in the season, isn't he? Like if he's going to come back or even a chance that he won't come back at all?
I think it's a mid-season, potentially towards round 20, I want to say. Like, it's still a while yet. And when he is back, mate, he's been great for us. One of the most underrated players of our team the last few seasons. I'd like to hope that he comes straight back into this team. I think he just about would have been the starting hooker if he wasn't injured. Like, I imagine he still would have stayed there, potentially with, I don't know, Pakes Hunt. That's a tough one as well. But it will be interesting, and I can't wait for him to get back. But you're right. I guess they're going to have to go with the young gun, if not moving Duffy there, which they probably won't do. One player I did just want to mention on my last bit of Broncos news too. Ben Takora, the biggest player in NRL history, 205 centimeters, has been given a provisional lease by the Broncos to test his hand at the NFL. We only got to see a handful of games from him. Massive boy, Josh. He's about your height, mate. You're a monster as well. Yeah, interesting. I think he gets to go to the Gold Coast. There's like a talent camp type of thing, and he's going to try and push for that. Looks like the Broncos will get him back if it doesn't become successful, but that'd be pretty cool too. I believe the NFL testing starts next week, so good luck to Takor. We didn't get to see too much of him. 205 centimeters, Josh. He's a little bit taller than me. What are you?
I'm 194, I think. So
Jeez.
still a bit below him.
Yeah, man, I'm 160. Oh, I forgot. Anyway, mate, yeah, it's it will be interesting. Good on him. And mate,
Yeah.
let's just get to what do you think of that? That's pretty cool though, right? If he were to make it, we've
Uh,
obviously seen Mailata go there and do it, which is pretty cool.
yeah, I think it'd be good because apart from Mailata, most of the successful players have been punters from the AFL. So I think it would be good for the game and good for Australia if we can sort of get a pipeline of players going to the NFL that aren't simply kickers, but some of those big Islander boys with Pacific Island heritage that live in Western Sydney or Ipswich and Logan. Like, yeah, let's get them in the NFL. Like, we've got the NFL coming to the MCG later in the year. Like, that's going to be a fantastic game. NFL support in Australia is kind of like NRL is like an all-time high. I think there's that desire with a lot of Australian sports fans for physical sports, UFC, rugby league, NFL. So I don't think Takura is ever going to be, set the world on fire in league. But if his body suits the NFL game. Why not give him a crack?
We're taking the Code Wars to the NFL, Josh. That's what you're telling me. It's AFL v NRL in the Code Wars. We'll have all the defensive players. They'll have the kickers. We'll see who wins. Mate, on the Cowboys too, you did touch on a few of them. Scotty Drinkwater, absolutely instrumental. I just cannot believe that the Cowboys, by all sounds of it, I heard some quotes from Todd Payton. He's been given permission to leave, to talk to other clubs. The Dragons would obviously make a lot of sense. There's a lot of noise happening down there. We'll get to them as well. But just the fact they're letting him go, he's only 28. He's the same age as Nathan Cleary. You'd think it's his prime. He's been their best player consistently for the last few years, since I can remember. He has been their best player throughout the whole course of a season. So maybe some defensive liabilities. I think that's an argument that's out there. But his attack, I mean, he kicked the field goal to level it up right in that game, got them right back in it, scored a try. He's a weapon in attack. If New South Wales weren't so stacked, he would have been more in the Origin conversation as well. Like, he's that type of player. I just can't believe that. Obviously, the story is that Jackson Purdue, amazing try against the Broncos. He looked like it was under sevens, the way he ran around the Broncos, the speed that kid showed. Obviously, they're playing
Looked like a video game, didn't it?
Mate, the way he sped off, I was watching with my partner on the couch. She was like, holy shit. Like, it was just the way he did it, the way he zigged and zagged through the middle of the field. It looked like he still had to beat half the Broncos team, and he just powered off. Incredible try. Now, they're talking about him being a long-term fullback, which obviously that's an awesome stock to have. But just the fact they're letting Scott Drinkwater potentially go, is that crazy, Josh?
I always thought like the Cowboys letting the Hamaso Tabuai-Fidow was their biggest blunder because he's such a good player, and he's gone on to do good things for the Dolphins in Queensland. But I think Scott Drinkwater sort of outshone everyone's expectations of him and has been, after that initial phase where the Cowboys chose him over the Hammer, like I think he's done better than a lot of people thought, and he is quite a good player. Potentially, yeah, there's maybe cap issues. I don't know, like how long Jason Taumalolo's got on his mega deal, but whether it'd be interesting to know like the salary cap ramifications, whether they're a bit too top heavy at the moment, and they can get some younger players with talent on a lower salary and say goodbye to Scotty Drinkwater. I know Drinkwater's from Central Coast, so maybe I'm not sure what he's said if he's spoken on it yet, whether he wants to be closer to his family in New South Wales. But I think it'd be sad because I think one of we've said leagues at an all-time high, but I think one of the disappointing things is that, when we were growing up, you knew Andrew Johns was Knights, you knew Hazem Masri was Bulldogs, Darren Lockyer was Broncos, but now it's players are switching and all the time, and sort of big names, Daly Cherry Evans at the Roosters or other big name players have moved around. Half those Penrith premiership teams are now the Tigers and the Bulldogs, which is fine. I think that's the cap at work, but I think there's something about one club players and players that fans can associate with. It'd be kind of sad to see him leave, but potentially he wants to go home to be closer to family. And maybe if there's cap problems at the Cowboys, that's what they're trying to do, just to free up some space to sign some of these good young players that we saw on Friday night.
You're telling me loyalty is dead, mate. Heartbreaking. Eh? Look, I just had a look just then. Tamalolo's deal runs out at the end of next year. Drinkwater was signed until the end of next year, so he'd be getting out a year early. Potentially, I don't think they'd let him mid-season, but Dragons look to be a favourite. Obviously, Perth would make total sense. They'd love to get their hands on a spine player like this. They obviously do have Tino Suamala-Aui. I didn't mention that before. He is a player that obviously you can hang that hat on, but just a spine player. That's what they're lacking, like a real crucial spine player. Scotty Drinkwater would fit that bill and would make a lot of sense, but obviously Dragons and Clint Gutherson, they've got a bunch of their own issues. Very interesting to see where he will go. I want to segue perfectly now into the Dragons, mate, because I was out there at Shane Flanagan's presser last week. It was a little bit like a funeral, I suppose. The way he walked out to the press pack, he said underneath his breath, I think they smell blood in the water. And he got up to the camera and then he said, there's only been one journalist here the past 2 years. And you obviously had me from Fox Sports. You had Danny Wilder there from Channel 9. Channel 10 had a reporter there. There was a few newspaper reporters there. You had a couple of the Win News local there as well, and the local newspaper. So there was a big media pack. And I was standing probably half a metre away from him, mate. And I don't know if it's a tick, but his lip was sort of quivering. And I think I could just really sense, it was actually a bit sad just how the pressure was on, and I think you could feel it. And I really like Shane Flanagan. I love what he's done. He's always been good to deal with in the media. But you could sense that I don't know if it's getting to him, or I guess it would get to anyone mentally and trying to deal with the stress. He said we love the game of rugby league, and I'd hate to see anyone go through what I'm going. And I think he was just referring to the scrutiny and the constant speculation now that he will be gone. There's now a board meeting on Tuesday night. So potentially by the time you've listened to this podcast, he may have been shown the door. But 10 losses in a row, 0-6 to start the season, dead bottom of the ladder. You'd have to think they're $1-1 right now to win the wooden spoon. They've only scored 86 points. They've conceded 173. So it hasn't been their defense so much that's let them down. The Eels have let in a lot more, but only putting up 86 points, Josh, across 6 rounds for an 0-6 start. Where do the Dragons go from here? And one last thing. Jaden Sewer, the Queensland forward, told teammates through a WhatsApp on Saturday morning he wasn't going to come back next year. He had a player option. He's gone at the end of the year. How much worse can it get for the Dragons?
Yeah, I guess that's a pretty bad sign culturally. Like if someone's letting you know they're going via WhatsApp, like don't send a text, tell the boys to their face. I also know what you mean by when you saw the emotion of Flanagan, like obviously reporting on politics, different story, but similar thing like earlier in the year, the Liberal Party replaced its leader, Susan Lee was replaced by Angus Taylor. And, you know, a lot of press conferences, a few people rock up, but all of a sudden, yeah, blood in the water, 50 or so, 40 Jettos. It's like you can see that emotion and yeah, I guess it's easy as a journalist to sort of run on the story, but when you see the emotion and the impact of some of these stories up close, it does hit you. So yeah, I think it would be tough for Shane Flanagan. Obviously, he's built his way back after what happened at Cronulla with the band there and getting kicked out. Like he won a premiership, he hit that high, then he came down, and then he sort of made his way back to coach. He's got his son there. Like there's a lot riding on it, but yeah, you feel for the bloke. He's a good commentator, and you know I think he's tried his best, but. Yeah, it does seem odd that they're not scoring a lot. Like, you know, when you think they've got guys like Gutherson and Val, who in previous years are like origin players, finals players, like whether they just bought too many older guys, like guys in their 30s, I don't know. It's and maybe going back to what we were just saying about the Cowboys and Todd Payton, like maybe they are smart, you know, getting rid of Drinkwater as he hits 28, 29. Like the game's getting quicker. Is the game leaving these players behind that are in their 30s? I don't know. It's because it's hard, isn't it? You look at sort of teams on paper at the moment. It's like the Tigers team really is not that much different to last year. Like, but whether some of those younger players have got better, even the same with the Knights. Like you got Fletcher Hunt and Fletcher Sharp, like two younger guys that are clearly talented. Like you've got, I guess, when you have this renewal in NRL, it sort of can happen overnight, where all of a sudden like the previous greats and the previous, you know, representative players or best players all of a sudden just become yesterday's news. And maybe we're seeing that with some of those Dragons players. Like they've just hit their expiry date. Volandis has been trying to get the game quicker and quicker so it's more attractive for the fans. And yeah, like the Dragons potentially have just signed too many older players and haven't got enough of the young guns. But yeah, it's even hard to say that. Like they've got, yeah, some all right younger players, but they just need to blood more and quicker, I think.
Yeah, I mean, Clint Gutherson has been a chat for a few years now. I mean, he was always an effort type player. And, you know, as those types of players that rely on effort get older, it does get harder. You lose that little bit of speed as well. Damien Cook was known as the famous beach sprinter, you know, and, you know, it's just the game has changed. The new 6 again rules this year. I've spoken to lots of clubs, players and coaches about the speed of the game and how it's changed. And they've all acknowledged how quick the game has gotten now. So you're right. Maybe it is just getting a bit too hard for these types of players anymore when they do hit, you know, past 30, get to a certain age and they do just lose that yard of speed. You mentioned Kyle Flanagan. I mean, a whole different story. There's a lot of people out there who think he's not cut out for the NRL. It's a very delicate position when your dad's the coach. I mean, I played in a soccer team in under sevens like that. You know, it's a juggling act, right, Josh, a little bit to get that right. And with Flanagan as well, he was asked, he was peppered. It was probably about a 15-minute press conference the day before the game, end of last week, down there in Wollongong. They just opened their new Centre of Excellence down there at the Dragons at the University of Wollongong, I believe. It was pretty cool. Got to see it. Looks really a great facility. So off the field, they're getting that stuff right. But obviously the results at the moment are pretty poor. Now, the other thing is, if he were to go, I'm thinking they've got Michael Ennis as an assistant. He's been touted as a potential Manly coach. So I wouldn't be surprised if he were to get fired this week or coming, Michael Ennis wouldn't step up into the interim role. And, you know, he would have a real chance, really, to be the full-time coach. That's been his job. I know there was discussions. He was previously at Manly as an assistant. There was a theory that he would succeed Anthony Seibold. That obviously, none of that worked out in the end, but he's got ambitions to do that. Another Fox League talent. They'll be losing people left, right, and centre if this keeps happening.
They might need you on there as an analyst on the game saying if they've lost 4 and if they lose NSL, they'll be short of commentators at Fox.
I'm putting my hand up there if you're listening, guys. They are my employers already, but I'll happily sit on the desk. But it would be a blow, mate. And yeah, I'd love to see the Dragons do well. They do get Keon Koloamatangi next year on a 5-year deal, but that's going to be a little bit too little too late, I believe, for Shane Flanagan to try and do it. And even just trying to attract players to this club right now, geez, you'd have to think that's a bit of a tough ask. They've done well to get Keon, but you'd have to think any really big name players wanting to come to this club at the moment, I think there's going to be a few different options. Good luck to them. And mate, the other big thing in the news that I keep seeing is these deals around PNG. And obviously, as a political man yourself, I did want to ask you, the Papua New Guinea team coming in from 2028. We all know the story by now. The Australian government's going to tip in about 600 million over 10 years. It's going to take about roughly 300 million to set it up. Obviously, we've spoken before about the political ideology behind setting the team up and all that type of thing. But the thing that's going to come into play very soon is the tax-free salaries. Now, the NRL, the Australian government, has worked out a deal that these will be tax-free salaries. And I think people are starting to realize just how big of an impact this is actually going to have. Because in the AFL, as you know, when new teams start up, they do draft spots, right? And they have incentives to try and give them a front foot to try and come into the competition. Now, the Dolphins came into the competition. They got no help. They just had to have the same salary cap like everyone else, just as Perth is finding out right now. They're a brand new team in a foreign city that's going to be very far from where a lot of rugby league players grow up and where their families are on the east side of Australia. They've got to go to Perth, get paid the same. I've read the Perth housing market is cooked. It's one of the worst in Australia, I believe, as well. The cost of living is through the roof everywhere. Loving getting $2.50 a litre petrol. It's like winning a feature on the pokies at the moment, Josh. If you bet $1 a spin, it's pretty crazy. And this is just type of things that happen. But they're going to be able to go to PNG. If you get $1 million here, what are we looking at? Like 500,000 or less? You're getting taxed in that high bracket. You're going to go to PNG. You're going to get $1 million. You're going to get $1 million in your pocket. You're going to get something like double your salary that you think you could have got in Australia. From what you know, your political background, your knowledge, and what you know about how this is all going to work, it seems like this is going to really be a success from the get-go, right?
I mean, if you were a young guy in your early 20s, you didn't have a wife and kids, there's nothing stopping you doing that, really. Like, someone was whinging the other day about how many days off NRL players get, I think, a year, like how much holidays they get. I think it's like 3 months or something. Like, if you think about it, like, let's say you're from Sydney and you're a young player, like, you're going to see your family every time you fly back to Sydney for the 6, 7, 8 games that the PNG team will have to play in Sydney. You're getting that tax-free salary. You're basically, as you said, doubling your income. Save that money, buy an investment property in whatever city in Australia you like while you're renting in PNG. I'm assuming it's one of the most dangerous cities in the world, Port Moresby, so they're going to be in a compound. I'm sure the team will basically have an apartment or like housing for the players. So paying pretty low rent, you're going to be able to go see your family. Like, I think it's going to be harder to get the players across the line that have families, wives and kids. Like, I think Munster was touted for the PNG, but like he's got a few kids now and a wife. Like, it's going to be a pretty tough sell for anyone with a wife and kids. I think the younger players will be able to get over, but PNG loves league. I'm sure every game's going to sell out. Like, they're going to have the most loyal and loudest fan base.
Yes.
Potentially, if they have some big losses, they'll need good security around the team as well. But I don't think there's any question that PNG is going to go around it, and I think they do need to do something like this. I think it's probably a bit unfair on the Bears to not have some sort of incentive. I think AFL, because they have the draft, they can incentivize getting young players to the team. And to switch to AFL for a second, like you're seeing now, a lot of teams in the AFL are opting to go for rebuilds where they sell their best players to get draft picks, and they're all trying to get in now to get their draft picks before Tassie comes along, because once Tassie comes in for the first couple of years, they're going to steal draft picks. So equalizing leagues and making them fair is interesting, because you have a cap that equalizes the leagues, but I guess the advantage in a salary cap league is like chances of winning a premiership, right? That's why the Broncos and the Storm and Penrith and the Roosters are able to get so many good players, because you know if you sign up for them, there's a high chance you're playing finals. You're going to be playing big Friday night games. You're going to play Origin. So I think they had to do something to get players to PNG. If you're a Bears fan, you'd probably feel a bit ripped off. Like, it's so far away from Australia. It's not a league town. Whether they should have done something there. And I know Wayne Bennett's always been a fan of a draft, and I think it would be good, even just for the publicity side of things. Like, there's that dead sort of window in media where the test matches stop until like preseason, where there's not much happening, where I think AFL's able to keep the media cycle going a bit longer when they have their draft process. So I'm personally a fan of an NRL draft, I think.
Josh Martin, heard it here first.
Get a draft going. That would solve some of your problems, and while you bring in some of these newer teams, and also maybe would stop this domination we've seen by Penrith. They had a great junior system.
I like that. I like where you're going with that. Let's rip Penrith to pieces. Mate, my one is, and I know the A-League, I'm not sure where it's at now, but it's the marquee player system, and that's one thing I'd love to see. I think especially for these teams, they go out and say, for one player only, you go and spend whatever you want, doesn't count in the salary cap. That's what I'd be happy to see that. Just one player, and that's the top player I'm talking about, the one you can build the franchise. That's what the Perth team really needed. Here's
Yeah.
the money, whatever you want, 1.5 million, 2 million, whatever you need to pay them, just for one player. That player's the face of your franchise. He's a big star player. I know the clubs would hate it, but if you really want it to be fair, give Perth a real crack at, they're going to be struggling. Whenever the AFL set up teams in heartlands of other codes, they've done that, right? They've, like you said, through the draft or whatever it may be, or just pumped a lot of money into them. The NRL is just going to give the Perth team the same amount of money they give to every other NRL team that's currently in there as well. So they really are setting them up, not to fail, but they're giving them a pretty hard task from the get-go. It's not like the Dolphins that were backed by rugby league from the beginning. They had a leagues club, they had a history, they had all this type of thing. And of course, the Bears are connected and all that type of thing, but it's still North Sydney and Perth. It's not the same thing. Like we mentioned, the compound, it's a $150 million high security luxury residential facility in Port Moresby. That'll be slated for 2028. It's located at the five-star Airways Resort. It will have secure housing, training, and amenities to attract players. I'm reading here, 67 fully serviced, 1 to 3 bedroom apartments. There'll be a high security gated compound with a gym and training, playground, all the things there. And that's all part of the money. And obviously, they're going to play out of the National Football Stadium. One thing they will need to invest in is good video cameras because I have seen the quality of the vision that comes out of those internationals, and for whatever reason, it's crap. They do need to work on that, which I'm sure they will be by the time Fox Sports and Channel 9 get involved in the broadcasting. And the rights could be different soon too. Don't forget, there is a broadcast deal coming up. Now, Josh, this is the last part of the show, mate, and we are for the fans here on season ticket holders, mate. As you can see, repping the Broncos. And what is that, by the way? Is that a training shirt?
I think it was the captain's run shirt from last year. I just I think the Broncos, my mate Carl and I were discussing, I think one of the things the Broncos have been nailing the last few years is the merch. Like the away jersey this year is pretty primo. The heritage throwback to '06, even the run-on shirt this year is quite good. So yeah, I think this was last year's run-on shirt. I've got into a bit of running and I found actually the most amount of merch I'm buying at the moment is all the training shirts. Because like if you buy a nice jersey, like you can't only wear it to a game and maybe you go to 3 or 4 games here. Whereas I find like the training gear, you can wear it to the gym or for a run and it's a bit more breathable. So that's where I'm at with the merch.
100%. No, I agree, man. I've got footy shorts and I wear those everywhere to the gym, boxing, jiu-jitsu, the Broncos training footy shorts. I think they're amazing. Check it out on YouTube. Josh Barton, stylish man, ladies and gentlemen. And mate, I didn't even touch on it, but just being in Canberra, you obviously came from Sydney, you used to work in Townsville. What is the rugby league support like there down at the Raiders? We did touch on the stadium. I had a bit of a rant a few weeks ago. There's obviously that debacle a few games ago with Cameron Serrato breaking his hand in the coach's box. I've heard that stadium sometimes smells like sewage. But where is everything at with Canberra, the support, and potentially getting a new stadium?
Yeah, the sport's massive. Up the milk is the common catchphrase. I think anyone who comes here and likes sport, they instantly become their first or second team. Like if you don't have it, if a lot of the people that come from Melbourne who are AFL fans will get into the Canberra team to their league team, or if you've got a league team, it kind of becomes your second team. The stadium, like you go out there and it's serviceable at the moment. But yeah, like I think the game against the Bulldogs where a big storm rolled through Canberra showed the fact that it is aging. The coaching box shattered on Serraldo and then the roof ripped open. It was pouring down on fans. So I think actually to plug my podcast, sorry, there's chatted to David Pocock on the Issue podcast by 7 News, the ACT senator, former Wallaby, and he's all the way in for a stadium. He made some good points. Like he said, this one's 50 years old. It's come to its end of life. We've got music acts bypassing Canberra. Like we barely get any music acts, and I think you need a nice stadium for that. The big push is to get it in the city. There's a big light rail getting built in the middle of Canberra. People want the stadium in the city, which I think has worked well. Like I was in Townsville reporting when the Cowboys stadium was getting built and opened, and yeah, it completely transformed Townsville. Like on a game night, you should go to the pub, go get dinner beforehand, go out after. Like it's in the city, it just adds to it. I think the Adelaide Oval redevelopment in Adelaide's been the same. Like it just having that stadium close to your CBD is the way to go. Like there was that American model that Australia seemed to copy maybe in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, where you put this huge stadium out in the suburbs and you have all this parking around it. But I think that's not what people want. Don't want to drive to the game. They want to get an Uber or they want to get a tram or a bus or a train,
Walk.
walk. They want to make it a whole event with dinner and drinks and going out after. So I think that's where the Cowboys are heading. I think the problem is like politically, Canberra always votes for Labor, so like the seats are heavily weighted towards Labor. So there's like I think the Labor territory government here's been in power for 30 years. So there's like not that close competition where they're going to have to promise to do things like that. The light rail's been the big political issue, and they're doing that. David Pocock though keeps winning, and some of the independents win some of the territory seats, then it might make it more of an issue, and the government might have to bite the bullet and do it at a territory and a federal level. I think they need Albo to stump up some cash. His territory's budget isn't in great form, but yeah, I think it'd be great for the Raiders, a new 30,000 seat stadium, like they'd fill it up. I've even seen a lot of commentary like around the Giants aren't doing that well in Western Sydney. There was some reporting out there about how poor their junior numbers are for AFL in Western Sydney, and like the Giants get 20,000 people here, or they fill out Manuka Oval. So potentially, yeah, you could get the Giants here as well. But Canberra likes the sport, and I think Canberra gets criticised for not having a lot to do. So people enjoy going to sporting events when they're on.
I liked it, man. I gave it a good review. So you heard it here first. Jump
It's
on
got the
Pocock.
Dane stamp of approval.
It does, mate. I checked out the nightlife, had some moose juice. So I think I highly recommend. I can't remember where that place was, but Moose Juice. Check it out. It's one of the nightclubs there. Jesus, I don't know. It's green. I guess it all on brand. Good or bad for fans? So let's rip straight into it. I'm going to give you a statement. You tell me if it's good or bad for fans. Disruptor penalties. No idea what's going on, man. It seems like players' intent, where their eye line is, whether they're going for the ball, whether they're not going for the ball. We saw them in the Broncos Cowboys game. Bad calls, in my opinion, on both sides. Michael Maguire came out post-game and said they were bizarre and rubbish. I think that was one on Gemmet Shibasaki. Trent Robinson came out, wanted a clear statement. Craig Fitzgibbon said he has no idea what's going on. Good or bad for fans, the disruptive penalties?
I think it's bad. I think you want players contesting the ball. You don't want players tackling each other in the air, but you want a contest for the ball. And I think if they leave the rules as they are, like players just aren't going to contest the ball. So I think it's bad.
Man, I just don't get it. Like, I was watching that game and it was like, if you're jumping up and you realize you can't get the ball, you're supposed to keep looking at it because that's what they seem to be judging the video calls
Yeah.
on. It's like, as soon as they took their eyes off the ball, that means they're not contesting. But that's not true. I mean, they're probably just thinking, all right, well, I've missed out on this. I need to like look around or, you got to be
Yeah.
aware of the situation. But it seems like they're just cracking down on like video evidence that I don't think has common sense applicable to
No.
it. Like, I just, the way they're calling it, and if all the coaches are going to be in unison, I mean, that's a handful of coaches from the weekend. I believe the NRL has said that they are going to have a talk to referees on how it's being officiated. But frankly, right now it's bullshit. Like, it doesn't work, it doesn't look good, and you can't really tell what's going on. So definitely bad for fans, mate.
There always
Nathan,
seems to be one rule at the start of the year that gets over policed or misinterpreted that gets sorted out. But I think that's where we're at with that one.
Mate, Uncle Peter Volandis normally gets him right. He's pretty good record, Uncle Pete. But then, you do a few too many and you're like, no. To their credit, they do normally rip it back out again. So we'll see. I reckon this is going to get fixed up hopefully in the next few weeks. Mate, Nathan Cleary leaving the NRL. Now, there were reports during the week he could earn $2 million a season if he goes to Hull KR in the Super League. There's obviously all this chat about Mary Fowler. I love Mary. Shout out to Mary, my favourite Matilda. Always chat that he wants to be in England. She plays for Manchester City to be closer there. Do we think it would ever happen? Nathan Cleary leaving the NRL for love. Good or bad for fans?
I always this is a bit of a curveball for me. I think Cleary should go to Union for the World Cup next year. Try to win a
Oh,
World Cup.
boo.
Like he's won four premierships, right? Like he's won Origins. Like I mean,
Nothing to
he could have
prove.
won more Origins. I don't think he's got anything to prove. I think he would actually be better going to Union trying to win. Like I know I was bagging out Union or saying Volandis should go to New Zealand, take out Union, but I think it would be great for the Waldies if they had like Cleary join Marky Mark and a few other guys over there. Zach Lomax.
Mate, I was about to say, they've got Zach Lomax. Hey, they've done enough. I think he played 20 minutes off the bench in his debut after some injuries. Good luck to
Yeah.
Lomax over there in Union.
I think, but to your original question, I actually think good. Like, yeah, I like Fowler and Cleary. I think they're a cute couple. So He's won everything here, and it'd be good for the Broncos and Queensland if he went to Super League. So he'd win. He'd win. What's the award over there? The Man of the League or the Man of Steel? He'd win.
It's the
He'd
Man of
win that.
Steel award.
He could win it till he was 50. I think.
I would like to see him. I'm just gonna say bad for fans because I would like to see him actually go to one of the franchise teams. I think a Perth PNG would make a lot of sense if they can get. Imagine Nathan Cleary at PNG. I think that would be pretty cool to see. But I'd also like to see him be a one club player. So it's tough. Like, man, it'd be heartbreaking for
What
Penrith
does his
fans.
dad tell him as well?
Yeah, well, maybe they go as a package deal, mate. Maybe they could both go together. They can go and run a new super club with all the PNG talent, and maybe Ivan Cleary goes and creates a whole new dynasty over there, just with the tax-free money in their little compound, counting their premierships, and they'll get to 5 in a row just to rub it in to Western Sydney. Mate, the Tigers, I've mentioned them every week on this podcast now. Quite incredible. They are tied on top of the ladder. Insane. No one saw this coming. Benji Marshall had a rocky start to life and the whole transition period that he had there. Prickly with media. We've talked about that as well. The game of the round Sunday afternoon, it was 2v3 against the Newcastle Knights, 44-22 smashing. Joint competition leaders. They're 4 from 5. They only lost to the Rabbitohs. Just to put into context, last year rather, the top 4 after 6 rounds was Canterbury, Melbourne, Brisbane, and Canberra, and that didn't really change. Obviously, Broncos Storm Grand Final, Raiders minor premiers, Bulldogs finished 3rd. Tigers, genuine title contenders, good or bad for fans?
I think it's good for fans. Having lived in Sydney, and I know we had a few mates who are Tigers fans. I think they're long suffering. And I think if the Tigers are doing well, it's good for the league. Like, you go up to Campbelltown, you go to Leichhardt, like the great parts of Sydney, just pure rugby league places where you can tell people love footy. So I think it'd be good. Whether they are actually genuine, I don't know. It'll be interesting. And they're doing it without Luai, which I think is interesting. Like, we were having a chat at work, like, if Luai came back, like, is it good? Like, it seems like Adam Dewey's finally learned how to pass the football. He had some great pills on the weekend. I know. I think I was watching a year or two ago, and he was just always running it. But Dewey seems to be playing well. Jock Madden's playing well, so I think it's good for footy. It's such a weird dynamic at the moment, isn't it? Because before the season, you would have been featuring like Broncos, Storm a bit higher up the ladder. Whether there's a realignment or whether this is the way it is, and like this is the new world order. I don't know. I feel like unlike last year, there will be a realignment of the ladder. I don't think the teams in the top 4 now will stay there. I think Penrith will stay up there. I think Tigers and Knights could both make the 8, but I don't know if they'll be top 4 come the end of the year.
Knights is an interesting one, isn't it? Because, I mean, they're doing it right now without their 2 biggest signings in Kalen Ponga and Dylan
Yeah.
Brown. The fact that they've been, I mean, but like you said, they've got a team of young, good talent, and maybe that's what this speeding up of the game has done. It's really rewarded teams with like really
mullets.
good young talent and mullets as well. Shout out to Newcastle. Are doing really well. And then the Wars, don't forget the Wars up there. I mean, they've always shown glimpses. It's just consistency and playing away from home for them. So, I definitely think this will change. I mean, and that brings me to the last one, which is one of probably the biggest surprises of the season so far too. It's the Melbourne Storm struggling for the first time in what feels like forever. Now, they of course conceded 50 against Penrith, and we all know the history. No team's ever conceded 50 and won a grand final. If any team can do it though, you'd have to think it's Melbourne. They've obviously they always have turnover. They got Suafat Longo, who's doing a great job without Ryan Pappenhausen. But worryingly for Queensland, I'd say Cam Munster looks to be down on form. Harry Grant is solid, but their forward pack is still working it out. They've obviously got strike in their outside backs, but they did deal with some injuries in the off-season as well. They're still dealing with that. But Melbourne struggling, mate. Is that good or bad for fans?
I think actually it's good. I mean, they've just been, I don't know, like there was some crazy stat about like, the Roosters, Panthers and Storm and Broncos. Like, I think from the last 2 or 3 decades, like the amount of grand finals without those 4 teams has been pretty minimal. Like, I think it is good to see some change. Like, my dad's a big Storm fan as well, and I always stir him up about the Storm. So I think it's good for fans. Obviously, a team in Melbourne up against the AFL, like you want them to be competitive to keep the crowds up, to keep that sort of expansion part of the league going well. But I think if it's just a year and there's a recorrection next year, I think it's good for fans. Like, let's see some of the other teams in the finals. Let's see some of the Sydney teams that have struggled get up there. I think it's good.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the ladder just after round 6, I mean, you've got the Storm, Raiders, Broncos, Sharks, all outside the 8 at the moment. So you'd have to think there's plenty of movement, and I'd be shocked if Craig Bellamy doesn't get his men back on track by midway, 2/3 through the season, and make a run to get right back in there. Interesting competition, Josh. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a bit of a long one, but we've covered a lot of ground, mate. Love to see the work you're doing down there in Canberra and the podcast, of course. We'll have to check out the episode with Pocock. Sounds like a good one, mate. But thank you for joining us very much, and good luck to our Brisbane Broncos for the next rest of the season.
Absolutely. Go the Bronx, go the Maroons. Thanks for having me, Dan. Appreciate it.
Queenslander will tune in to Sunrise and catch him on No today. No. Josh, thanks a lot for joining us, mate. Take care. And would also, guys, just like to thank our sponsor, National Freight Management. They can handle most of your needs from crates to pallets. Check out their website, nationalfreightmanagement.com.au. We do have the information up on our website. And as always, if you like the content, please like and subscribe. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple and Spotify and on YouTube as well. It really helps. Anyway, guys, I've talked way too much. Thank you very much. Take care. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.